Ayo, keep it high, keep it tight. It's J Morse, review guy, back to bring you another review. And in this one, we're going to be talking about the recently released Gavin Dance album entitled Artificial Selection. Released June 8th, 2018 on Rise Records, Artificial Selection is the band's eighth studio album. And something that I'm not sure if I've actually um, said this in a video this year, but ever since I heard the track Midnight Crusade, I was stoked for this album, and it was probably my most anticipated album with a release date. And I went into this album with a bit of skepticism because it's a known fact that a lot of times albums will put out some really good singles, and then the rest of the album will be mediocre, will not be as good. And they released Count Basie recently, right before the album got released, and then they released Midnight Crusade before that, and they released, I believe, was it Son of Robot? Son of Robot was a single too. But anyways, they released some singles, and they all sounded amazing, and they were setting this album up to be great. And I have to say that I was skeptical because when you release a ton of great songs, that can sometimes be an indication that the rest of the album is going to be lesser. But I tell you one thing, that is not what happened on this album. 51 minutes, 14 tracks. The thing about that is you have to catch your listeners' ears. You have to be able to hold their attention, and that is bold for any album, let alone an album of this particular genre where a lot of people can say that things can start to sound repetitive, can start to sound too samey, and I tend to agree with that, that sometimes really longer metal albums can be more difficult to kind of hold attention if you are clinging to one genre. But this album is all over the place in a good way. They have these strange math rock type of signatures and arpeggios, and they have this post-hardcore veneer to them, and they go from these soft to growls, and they go from clean to unclean vocals. And John Mess and Tillman sound better than they have ever sounded. And Tillman in particular, God, he sounds amazing on this album. I have to say, like Count Basie, I was not expecting him to go into those super high vocals, like about a minute in. And it's true of like a song like Midnight Crusade too. It's just he he does so good about having a great range. And for someone that has a natural raspy, gravelly tone, he can go so high, so deep, and his natural voice is just so diverse in its range that this album never gets stale when it comes to the vocalization, and that's just on Tillman's side. John Mess sounds amazing on the unclean vocals, and he puts so much passion and vigor and emotion into his vocals that they sound amazing on their own. But when they harmonize, when they put the two together, John Mess's and Tillman's, oh my God, they sound amazing. And here's the thing about an album like this, it has amazing lyrics. From start to finish, the lyrics never went into the edgy territory, but didn't sacrifice being realistic, relatable, and emotional, but never got too corny or unbelievable or contrived. And the good thing about that is you can have really bad vocals and have good lyrics. You can have really bad lyrics but have really good vocals. But when you combine the two together and have great vocalization and great lyricism combined with great instrumentation, it causes the whole experience and the atmosphere of the album to be brought up to a pedestal that puts it above what it would have previously been. And from start to finish, this album never got stale to me. And it was phenomenal from start to finish on every corner that I can think of, whether it be the vocalization, the instrumentation, the lyricism, the construction of the songs. And when for 14 tracks, no track on this album to me seems like a throwaway track. No track seems like I could do without that track. That I don't feel that way about any album. I mean about any song on this album. And there's legitimately some songs on this album that I was very intrigued by that I thought was really neat. I mean, you have track number 6, Flash, which has this story about like how you're faking it with someone, you're loving someone, but you don't really know each other, but you just want to feel love and no one else has to know. And I love that kind of playing out. And track number 7, The Rattler, it just has this amazing heaviness to it. And the thing that I'm finding it difficult to really put into words is a lot of times if an album is this long, as you go through the album, you're going to be like maybe wanting to skip some songs if you've heard them before, or maybe you're kind of like, this isn't as good as the last few. But with this album, I never reached a point to where I was like, oh, okay, get this album over with. I wanted more. And that is a sign of an amazing, phenomenal effort put forth by a band. And considering it's their 8th studio album, I'm getting flashbacks to like an album from Judas Priest such as Firepower or Painkiller, where they release a great album later in their career. Dance Gavin Dance has done this with Artificial Selection, and I'm going to go ahead and go as far as to say it's the best post-hardcore album I've heard in a long time. It's the best math rock album I've heard in a long time. I mean, I don't think that's difficult to say. Track 8, Shelf Life, features Kurt Travis, the previous vocalist for Dance Gavin Dance, and I think that was awesome. He sounds great on the album, and for older fans of the band, that really means a lot, and I'm sure that is something that's going to go over very well with the fan base. Will Swan, his guitar playing, fantastic, obviously. The bass and the guitar and the drums sound great. They sound classic Dance Gavin Dance. They sound like a typical post-hardcore album without trying to be that too much different, but not in a bad way. It's consistent, and some of the instrumentation on this album is very interesting. Like the Rattler, it starts off with just this heavy guitar playing with John Mess doing these I don't even know what type of vocals he's doing. I mean, he's like, I can't even replicate it. It's very math rocky, and from start to finish, and basically what that means is it's strange. It has strange time signatures. It has strange just everything, vocalization. It's very avant-garde, very art rockish, very art metalish, and it from start to finish, I enjoyed this album. And I think you guys know where this whole thing is going to be going. But before we get to that, what is my favorite track on the album? I'm tempted to say Midnight Crusade for nostalgia, but I have to say Count Basie. That song, whew, I love that song so much. It's a great song. But like I said, you guys know where this is heading. This album, for me, is going to get a perfect 10 out of 10. My expectations were set through the roof when this album was like announced and when I heard Midnight Crusade, and I was a bit worried and a bit skeptical for if it was going to be as good as I hope, and I had nothing to worry about. They came through in spades, and they threw my expectations down the drain and really just said, we're here to stay, we're going to make a great album, and you're going to listen to it, and they did not compromise. They did not make a dud on this album. They did not make a dud album in general. And to me, this is going to be high up on the Album of the Year list because at the end of the year, because I don't have a reason not to put it there right now. It is just phenomenal. And I'd love to hear what you guys think of this album. In the comments section below, tell me what you think, and I'll shout you out. Like the video, it helps me out a lot. And I'm going to put the link to the Wikipedia page for this album and band in the description below, so you could go check them out. But I'm signing off. Until next time, my name is Jay Mercer, Review Guy, and I'll see you next time. Until then, farewell.
Oh no, what your mama gonna say when I tell her that I broke no heart? It's just things not the way that they used to be. Oh no, now you crying on the bathroom floor and I guess it's the end. Well, I lost my mind and I lost my best friend.